Okay, so following up on that, following up on the energy, there are some alternative of energy sources, okay, that countries are exploring, okay, to move away from reliance on the typical petroleum-based energy. Okay, so typically petroleum is used in its petroleum form for transportation, or it is used to generate other types of energy. Petroleum is used to generate electricity, for example. So countries are exploring alternative energy sources because we know petroleum is depleting, okay, and we can see in practice that there are a lot of initiatives to move away from reliance on petroleum. So there are a lot of EVs going in a lot of countries. There are major manufacturers of cars, vehicles are starting to produce EVs, okay, electric vehicles. Okay, but of course we can see even if they produce cars that rely on electric, a lot of electricity is generated through petroleum, so it's still unrenewable sources. So all countries still need to find alternative energy sources, even though there are car companies are trying to look at electric vehicles. Okay, so one major source of alternative energy, renewable energy, is wind power. Okay, so through the force of wind, it moves a turbine which generates electricity. Okay, so in the US context, wind power holds great promise for the US. Okay, so wind power can be reached by countries that have large geographic locations, so big countries. Okay, companies that have wide area can benefit from wind power. Okay, because it requires land. Okay, it requires a big area. Its use has already taken off in many countries. Experts believe wind energy could meet 20% of the nation's energy needs. Okay, so theoretically, it is estimated that United States energy needs can be partially fulfilled, 20% be fulfilled by wind power. Restructuring the nation's power grids to efficiently transmit wind generated power will take huge investments. But the problem with wind power is that they need to revamp the national power grids to transfer the energy generated through the windmills. Okay, so it takes huge investment, so it's not as straightforward. Okay, the promise is there, the benefit is there, but the investment is huge. Widespread adoption of wind power is slowed by the high cost of turbines. So producing the turbines is high cost, okay, as well as limitations on an outdated national power grid. Okay, the second alternative energy sources is geothermal power. Okay, what is geothermal power? Geothermal energy comes from the natural heat inside the earth, which is extracted by drilling into steam beds. Okay, so there are natural heat inside the earth which produces steam. Okay, so in Bangi, in UKM is not far from several places where we have geothermal energy. If you go to those places, I know that there's a place in Hulu Langat. Okay, in Hulu Langat, around around 30 kilometers away from UKM. Okay, you should be able to go to a place where there are pools where the water is warm because there's geothermal energy underneath. It's a natural geothermal energy that is available underneath the pool of water. Okay, so with that, because with that, geothermal power is able to be converted into electricity or otherwise. Okay, so the advantages is it provides constant source of heat. So if the purpose is about to heat something, then there is no need of conversion. Okay, like heating the pool of water. We can build the pool of water, put water in it, and then due to the geothermal energy, geothermal power underneath, then we will get hot water. Okay, so it's instant and constant, meaning that it's always geothermal energy is always geothermal power is always working. Okay, it's a dependable source of energy. Okay, it's a very stable and it's always there. It emits fewer carbon emissions than coal-powered plants. Okay. The advantage is, however, is expensive because it requires drilling the sites. Okay, to get the benefit of the geothermal power, there is drilling needs to be done, and drilling sites are not readily available everywhere. The next energy source is solar power. Okay, so solar power, we know about solar power. So it comes the power that's generated through the rays of the sun rays. Okay, so if it's the night time, then we don't get source of solar power. Okay, so the advantages of solar power is 100% renewable energy. Okay, so it doesn't deplete. Okay, solar power does not deplete. It's only how do we extract them from the daytime. Okay, so it's 100% renewable energy. It can be converted into electricity through the use of either photovoltaic cells, solar cells, or solar power plants. Okay, however, the disadvantage is expensive. Okay, the solar power plants are expensive. The solar panels themselves are expensive. I have a few of my people I know. They install solar panels on their houses, and it's not cheap. Okay, some reported that the investment cost for having solar panels on their house will be 30,000 ringgit for the installation of the thing. Okay, so it takes a while to get the payback. Okay, so if they put based on their experience, still it's they will get the payback, but the initial outlay is quite a big number. Okay, so they save probably 700 ringgit a month of electricity, but they need to have an initial outlay of 30,000 ringgit. Okay, so it is expensive. It is inefficient compared to traditional fossil fuel or generated energy, meaning it needs to get a lot of it requires a lot of sun rays in order to get a certain amount of energy. So and the infrastructure for mass production of solar panels is not in place at the moment. Okay. And then nuclear power. Okay, nuclear power, where they use countries have power plants, nuclear power plants to generate electricity. So one of the countries that depends most of their energy needs through nuclear energy is France, where France have 75% of their energy needs fulfilled through their nuclear power plants. Okay, so the advantages is pollution free and cost competitive. Okay, however, of course, it's nuclear power is quite controversial because the danger associated with nuclear, especially if there's any nuclear power plant meltdowns. And what about the waste disposal? They will have radioactive waste disposal which can harm human beings, plants, and animals. Okay, so there's the danger of the nuclear itself. It is less competitive with other sources of electricity due to the engineering and time. Because of the dangerous nature of nuclear, then the power plants need to be very well engineered to ensure the safety of those people who work in the nuclear power plants, as well as the local area of the plant. Critics are concerned with the safety of nuclear power plants and the disposal of the waste. How do the companies treat the wastage coming from the power plants? Other sources of energy include biofuels. So instead of using petroleum, so people are trying to look at other types of fuels. So it is quite a controversial form of alternative energy, where they use ethanol. So ethanol is a type of I believe it's a type of alcohol that can be used to generate energy. Okay, so critics argue manufacturing ethanol takes a lot of energy and is not much more sustainable than oil. So it's the cost of producing, the effort in producing ethanol cancels out its benefit as compared to just taking petroleum. So critics argue that whether ethanol is more sustainable than oil. Opponents believe it decreases the world's food supply, okay, because ethanol is produced by crops. Okay, some places use corn to produce ethanol. Okay, so they process corn to produce ethanol, but corn is a staple food for certain countries. Okay, so when in order to produce ethanol, they use up the staple food of certain countries, and that will reduce their food supply instead. Okay, so there is a trade-off between producing energy and providing food for citizens. Okay, so when there is this conflict, and there is the demand on corn, for example, to be used as to produce ethanol, then of course the demand on corn will increase, and therefore the food prices, corn in terms of food, will also have increases in its price. Okay, and one of the best alternative sources of energy is hydropower. Okay, hydropower. So a lot of countries, they build dams, hydroelectric dams to generate electricity. Okay, and Malaysia has a few hydroelectric dams. Okay, they create dams, and then produce. They create they build the hydroelectric dams to generate power from the flow of water. Okay, so it is the largest form of renewable energy. Okay, so because at the moment, water still flows in the rivers. Okay, and there's the water cycle. Okay, so water that goes to the sea will be evaporated and will come down back as rain. So it's a cycle, and therefore hydropower gets its energy from a renewable source, which is flowing water. Okay, it decreases greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution, because to generate energy from flowing water does not require the burning of any of those fuels or those elements. Okay, it doesn't involve burning of things, so it does not emit any gases. Okay, it doesn't contribute to air pollution. Okay, it's clean. Okay, clean in terms of air. Okay, clean in terms of air. However, there are disadvantages. Major disadvantage is destruction of wildlife and human habitats when valleys are flooded using dams. Okay, so in order to produce a hydropower plant, then the most effective way, or the one that is giving the most opportunity, is building dams. Okay, building dams on river, so it floods the area. It floods the area, and then it creates more pressure, and which helps in generating more energy. However, because of flooding the area, and these areas are not small. Okay, these areas are very big areas. Okay, so they destroy wildlife, destroy human habitats as well. Okay, so that's the main big disadvantage, and usually there are a lot of resistance from village communities when they see that the building of such dam will destroy their village, or destroy the habitat of wildlife in that particular area. Okay, and it disrupts the life cycles of aquatic life. Okay, because there was a country when where salmon, salmon fish. Okay, the salmon fish lives in the ocean, but when they want to spawn, when they want to lay their eggs, okay, they go upstream. They go into the river, and they go upstream, and then they will lay their eggs at the high part of the river, and then the salmon will die there. And then when the eggs, the salmon eggs hatch, and then the baby salmon, okay, they hatch, they will all go downstream in the river and go back into the sea, into the ocean, and they will live there for most of their lives. So when it's time for them to lay their eggs again, they will go upstream again. Okay, so when dam is created, so it stops the river. Okay, it stops the river. It regulates the river. Only certain amount of water goes out over the dam. So now a lot of this salmon that is supposed to go down to the ocean, now they are trapped inside the dam. Okay, so their life cycle is disrupted.